Chris, Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here. We are sorry it took us a minute to get going. We're having some tech issues. We hope that it looks okay on your end. We were trying to correct some of that, but I guess everybody's on the internet on a holiday weekend. But anyway, to where everyone else was this weekend too, Blake, that was watching SEC football. And it
They
was
were.
one heck of a weekend to watch.
Yeah, and the dogs are currently having a fun time outside my door here, so they are also excited to have football back. But apparently after Georgia's performance, maybe that's what they're excited about. So, yeah, quite a weekend thus far. I mean, look, we've still got LSU, Florida State now, so yeah, it was a very interesting start for a lot of teams in the SEC, but a lot of good wins too, I think, across the board. So.
Georgia last year had a dominant season. But was Georgia any more dominant in any game, considering who it played, than it was on Saturday afternoon against Oregon? That was crazy. I mean, we talked about 17's a lot of points to cover. They lost 15 guys to the NFL. They're facing their old defensive coordinator. And they just stuck it to Oregon with no mercy.
I mean, it was like plug and like just. I mean, it's like rinse and repeat. Like just plug in and replace. Like that's just kind of what it was going to be. And we had kind of talked about that. I mean, everyone. Look, we'll talk about Alabama, I'm sure, in a second. But everyone really just kind of talking about the dominance of of what Alabama could do this season. But I mean, you look at Georgia to start off the way that they started. I mean, my goodness, it doesn't really get much more dominant than that, considering the opponent. So, yeah, I mean, it's look like we said, it wasn't as if Georgia was going to just completely fall off. Everyone's question was, can you plug a lot of these people in very quickly? But as we said, I think I remember the phrase I used was you're just replacing talent with other talent. And, it's just a matter of how quickly the chemistry comes together. Well, questions answered. I think they're okay chemistry wise after
Yeah.
doing what they did in that game. So, yeah, I mean, look, as we said, they're really good, and yeah, I mean, it's just it is what it is. You know what you're getting with Georgia now. This is what Kirby Smart has created there, and yeah, it's just going to continue, I think, to be that case now. Everyone's looking, and especially when you look at kind of the way things started, I mean, at this point, it's a collision course for Alabama and Georgia again. No surprise. It seems to be at least the thoughts through week one thus far. So
Yeah, I mean, just a crazy good weekend for the league, Blake. Georgia was dominant. Alabama talked about 41.5 was a lot to cover. No sweat for Alabama there, beating a pretty decent Utah State team like a drum. I mean, the SEC, here we are after 2 weekends of play, although one of them only involved one game in week 0. The SEC is 15-0. The SEC has probably knocked Utah out of playoff contention. Alabama rolls. Florida's impressive win. I mean, I don't know where you stop with the superlatives after
yeah,
this weekend. I mean, I guess it's 14-0 because LSU plays tonight about the time we're doing this. So we got to see that one first. I think LSU wins that game, but I just was blown away. Like, we knew this was going to be a dominant year for the league, and I looked at some of those numbers and said, my goodness, that's a lot of points to cover against a fill in the blank team that's okay. And almost without exception, the SEC just did it.
yeah. No, I mean they did, and I mean it's the SEC, right? It's what we talk about all the time. Like it is just something where look, we can go into every season, and the one thing we always say is that we just don't know ever kind of what you're going to see year in and year out. But it's hard to kind of separate some of these teams, right? That's what we always
Yeah.
talk about. Is just kind of what's going to be the point that separates some of these teams, and I think that's the hardest thing to figure out. Is just there is so little room for error, and I think when you see the way the league has started, again, look across the board at some of these teams. Um, there were just so many impressive things. Now, yes, some teams played more talented opponents than others, but still, you can see the potential for everyone. This is kind of one of those usual week ones, I think, for the SEC. We'll see if LSU can kind of cap it off with a win against Florida State. But again, I mean, across the board, right? You couldn't ask for a better, I think, start for the SEC when you're, again, depending on how the LSU Florida State game turns out. But everybody's a winner, and you'll certainly take that thus far. So,
Well, the best win, regardless of margin of victory, came in Gainesville. And I thought that was a really tough matchup for Florida with an experienced team, new coach. Didn't matter. I mean, Florida's defense gets a big interception to basically end the game. Anthony Richardson, really good stat line, great with his feet, which that was kind of a theme of this week, is quarterbacks doing damage on the ground. Huge, huge win to start a new tenure there in Gainesville.
yeah, I mean, look, there's people calling us crazy for what was it? Our composite power rankings. Florida was at 11, and we said, I mean,
They won't be 11 this week.
they won't be 11 this week, but and by the way, as I said before, I think some of us had Florida a little bit higher than others. Although again, I didn't have Florida. I think I may have had them close to the top half, but look, I couldn't have told you that I had them in the top 5 or anything. I just, again, it was the wait and see, right? We said there's new coaching staff there. There's a lot of interesting pieces in the mix, but we wanted to see how this first game went. Well, now we've seen it, and yeah, Florida's clearly very, very talented, and Anthony Richardson was fantastic, just so entertaining to watch. And look, Utah had their opportunities, but Florida made more plays, and that's the name of the game. So, yeah, I thought it was. Look, you couldn't ask for a better start for Florida. I mean, again, we talked about how close that spread was and all those different things, and yeah, it was a situation where Florida just was the better team in that game, I thought. And yeah, I mean, it's as we said, it's just with new coaching staffs, you never know. And I think it's a situation where just not even, the winning part obviously is big, but there were a lot of things I saw from Florida in that game that, man, like I feel like that they're going to be just fine because Billy Napier, we always said, just I thought it was a really good hire from the start, but
Yes.
we didn't know how long it was going to take, and I think that was the question. But man, it's quite a first win for Billy Napier for sure. So
Arkansas takes care of business against Cincinnati in a game where Arkansas, I think, led the whole game or close to it. And Cincinnati made kind of a late charge. KJ Jefferson was really good again. They got a couple of big interceptions. The guys in Vegas, I guess, knew what they were doing with this one because I think the line was 6.5. It wound up to 7. But Cincinnati was a tough matchup, and Arkansas was just good enough.
they were, and we said we thought Arkansas would cover that spread, but I don't think we necessarily talked about it in terms of. Look, I don't think the expectation was Arkansas was going to come out and win this game by 3 touchdowns or anything. I think it was more of they got off to a great start. There's obviously no doubt about that. I mean, being up 14-0 at halftime, but behind the playmaking ability of KJ Jefferson, and that's why we have Arkansas. There's a lot of reasons why we have him high, right? But it's just his ability to make plays. Like it's something that other teams don't have the luxury of. A lot of other teams just, again, what he can do in a variety of different ways. And yeah, I thought it was, like I said, that great start. We talked about it. Like that was one of the things maybe too, in a game like that where Cincinnati's replacing guys, just getting off to a good start. That is going to be very important. And Arkansas did exactly that. That was such a huge part of this game. And now it's a situation where, man, I mean, we talked about that schedule, right? Like one
Yeah.
out of the way, many more to come. So.
Yeah, South Carolina next week will be good, and Florida's going to play Kentucky next week. I think the Gators already a 6.5-point favorite. Kentucky got a big kickoff return from a stud freshman. Offensive numbers weren't that great. They couldn't run the ball very well against a defense that they should have been able to run on. Of course, Chris Rodriguez was out, but Kentucky got the win, won by 24 points, which against Miami of Ohio, that's not bad. That's a decent MAC program. But that sets up a big one next week. I don't think Rodriguez will play in that one probably. I think I can't remember if they announced it officially if he was out 2 games or more, but I think he's probably not going to play next week. But that'll be a good one in the swamp. And Kentucky reloading on defense, giving up 13 points to a Miami team that can, has got a lot of guys back and can move the ball a little bit.
We missed on that one.
We did.
In hindsight.
Yeah.
in hindsight, I don't know why on earth I did not make Mississippi State and Memphis over 57.5 my lock of the week, because I just thinking back, like I wish I would have made that one instead of this one.
Yeah.
But we almost got there in this one. We almost got to that 53 on this one, but not quite with Kentucky. Man, but like you said, we did expect a higher scoring game, but Kentucky's defense, you've been hyping it up. We've all been hyping it up. Like it's just you expect their defense to figure it out. And yeah, I thought it was a really good performance for Kentucky. The one you kind of want to see, as you said, to kind of start the season. Good first half where it's close game, and then you want to see that kind of breakaway early. Of course, the kickoff return that helps. That'll help build some momentum, like they had with the 100-yard return third quarter to start the second half. So I just Kentucky took care of business, did what they had to do, and as we said, we really like the potential of that offense. And again, that's without their best running back in the fold there in this game. So a lot of options I think to work with for the Cats. So
Well, Tavion Robinson, their Virginia Tech transfer, plugged in and
yeah,
was kind of their Wandale Robinson for this year. Remember, he transferred last year from Nebraska and was so good. So it's not what you wanted to see out of Kentucky. You're just used to them running for more than that, and that's a little concerning. But I mean, again, you win by 24
yeah,
opening day. You're not always at your best,
yeah.
so you got to give them a lot of credit there. I think Bryce Young ran for more yards by a good margin than he ran for all last season. I think he goes 5 for 100. Alabama's up 41 at half. There's so much for any lack of sharpness out of the gate with all those new faces on offense.
Bryce Young, Stetson Bennett, Anthony Richardson, 3-man Heisman race early on. KJ Jefferson, we got to throw him in there too. How about that? We're gonna do the campaign for.
I don't think they even had the best statistical weekend of SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that would have been Will Rogers, probably.
either Will Rogers or Mike Wright at
Or
Vanderbilt,
Wright.
who had
That's
6
true.
touchdowns he accounted
That's true.
for. I mean, it was
a
crazy good weekend for quarterbacks, which we thought this was a really strong year for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then you had a lot of new faces and uncertainty, which we can get to some of that in a minute. But and defenses too. I mean, Georgia gives up 3 to Oregon, which it's always been able to score a little bit. Alabama shuts out a Utah State team that won 10 games a year ago.
They didn't just shut them out. They just, like I said, it's just wild to think about. Like you just saying that, I'm like, they're 41-0 at halftime, and it wasn't even close. So.
Yeah, South Carolina gets 2 block punts for touchdowns. I guess that's not really defense; that's special teams, but still.
LSU on the board.
All right, there we go. I'm looking forward to watching this one as soon as we're done.
Yeah,
that was one of the ones I really circled. I thought defenses really showed up this weekend. Ole Miss gives up 10 to Troy, which I know Troy's defense is buttered. Troy's bread is buttered more on the defensive side, is what I'm trying to say. And Ole Miss was a little bit underwhelming offensively. Would have liked to see more from Jackson Dart, but they got a win.
I think we expected
fairly
that.
Comfortable. Yeah, I mean, they didn't know who their guy
we talked
was
about
be.
that, though. We said the spread was too high. I think we talked about that. We said that's one to kind of keep an eye on, because I still think Ole Miss is going to be a bit of a work in progress, and I think that was our expectation coming in. And we talked about the schedule, right? Like it's good for them because I think they could still be a work in progress on the offensive side, but their schedule should allow that to be okay, to where they can build in some of that progress, even though you're going to play SEC games. It's not going to be easy, but I think that's good to have. So I'm not surprised by maybe you're going to take a win, but I'm not surprised that it's not, the 50-something points for Ole Miss in game one, because you did go up against a defensive team, pretty experienced, a Troy team like that. And you're working in a new quarterback and doing those kind of things. So I'm not shocked by that. So,
the surprise stat for the weekend?
There's probably many.
Yeah, but there's one that's really sticking out.
I don't know it.
Mississippi State ran the ball 34 times. Did State run the ball 34 times all last year?
Well, I mean, after you had a 8-hour rain delay, it seemed like, or storm delay,
still,
that game lengthwise had to be the longest No, but no, you're right. I was looking at that one
A&M
too.
had one of those too.
Yeah, no, A&M's was
Speaking
delayed a
of
while.
defense, I knew I was forgetting someone. A&M shuts out Sam Houston, which is not
Yeah,
a small accomplishment either.
well, and we said that's a different Sam Houston team, but still to be able to do that, we talked about the strength of the A&M defense. Like there were not a lot of questions about that, I don't think. I I think, still, a lot of people are going to look at this offense. And yes, they put up 31. Haynes King goes for 3 touchdowns through 2 interceptions. But I think it's still going to be interesting to see how the offense plays out for A&M. Because, again, like we said, we talked about A&M, and I know some people just, think we're taking shots at them, but we're not. Like, we're just kind of telling you that this is a team that even we know, like, they're a little. They've got players to plug in, and there's some young players that are playing a lot of minutes, and they're going to have to. So, yeah, I think it's look. I mean, you can't ask for you're 31 to nothing. You're not going. I'm sure Jimbo's going to be picking apart a lot of things, but look, you'll take a shutout in week one, no matter who you play. So
Yeah, back to state. Will Rogers, 38 of 49 for 450, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Goodness, the receiving chart almost runs off the page. 1, 2, 3, 4. He completed passes to 12 different receivers.
that's awesome.
Well, I mean, and it's not like we talked about this a little bit preseason. They have some guys. Of course, they're going to throw a lot to their running backs. Jaden Wally's back. You knew he was going to catch a ton of balls, although he only caught 3. The Ducking kid, I think they like. He's a young up and comer. Marks and Johnson are going to catch a ton of balls. If you're in a PPR fantasy football league, I hope you got them. I did. I got them both.
Is Anthony Richardson your quarterback? Who's your quarterback?
I have Anthony Richardson and Mike Wright.
Boy, what a week
And
for your
it
quarterbacks,
was a
huh?
best ball league, so Richardson
Wow.
actually didn't even count.
How about that? What a
Um,
start for you.
yeah, yeah. Although I think Mike Wright's probably going to come down to earth a little bit. The defenses are going to get a little harder from
They're
here
going to
on
get a
out.
little more tougher than Hawaii and Elon probably. But by the way, shout out to Tyler, who we put the graphic on the screen there. He's a Indiana fan. He's ready for Kentucky. So yeah, we'll see. But
You're next.
Kentucky, Indiana. Yeah, what about Auburn? I mean, Auburn took care of business. That was pretty convincing, right? I mean,
Right.
we said. I mean, we talked about that, right? It's just
Yeah.
Auburn just need to get on the field. Like that was like just get this game on the field. Let's stop talking about everything that happened in the offseason. Let's just go play this game. And well, they did. And Tank doing Tank stuff. What is 100 almost 150 yards on the ground, I think a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, their quarterback, they some interesting things there with Ashford running the ball a good bit. Finley had a pretty pedestrian passing line, but it was good enough.
Will Rogers.
Yeah, our man Ryan McDaniel's right. I think he is. I mean, there's a few guys. I've argued KJ Jefferson. I think it's one of those two.
No. I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those guys. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I told you my thought on Auburn was let's let's let them play football. Let's just get this game thing going, and let's roll with it and see what happens. So we had Auburn higher than most people, I think, in our power rankings, right?
We
So
did.
that is something to think about. I mean, I think we look at the roster and there's a lot of appeal there. We just again, I think some people just had to get past the fact that there was this, a couple storylines that just dominate the offseason, but we have so much time in the offseason to talk about it. Like you have to come up with stuff at some point. And so you can just kind of keep hitting on the same stuff time and time again. And I think that now that we're getting these games going, like we're actually playing games now, it's so much better because now we can tell you what we're seeing, right? Like in the offseason, you can see practice, you can see some of these other things, but it's like, Chris, like we're all just playing a guessing game until the actual season starts. And so, yeah, it's again Auburn, another one of those teams that I'm very interested to see, them moving forward and how things continue to progress from here. We talked about their schedule. I mean, they get a Penn State team that by no means look like a world beater
No.
against Purdue. So that one, I think, for Auburn looking a lot better. So we'll see.
Talk South Carolina. Not really good offensive numbers. Spencer Rattler's QB rating was, I think, 28 to 29, one touchdown, two picks. Carolina only had 308 total yards. And look, we said Georgia State was a tough opponent. So we're not going to sit here and just bag on South Carolina for a 21-point win. But yes, two of them did come via blocked punts. And so that, you're not going to get two scores on blocked punts in most games. But, the defense was pretty good. I mean, Carolina's defense last year took a big leap from the previous year under Shane Beamer. I mean, 2 years ago, they were awful defensively. And I think they shaved, 10, 12 points a game off their total last year. They did lose probably their best two defensive players from last year, but they hit the portal and reloaded pretty well. I didn't see any of that game, just for full disclosure. But that was kind of interesting. I would have liked to have seen better numbers from Spencer Rattler. I don't know if that really answered a lot of questions for me about Carolina.
Here's a question that ties into that because of course we got Arkansas and South Carolina this weekend or next weekend. Um, I think we said off the bat, right, that the thing about that game was you still felt like South Carolina's offense was going to be not all the way there yet. Like I think if you're going to get South Carolina, to me, this felt like a great time scheduling wise to get them
Yeah,
early in the season. And I think, like you said, that theory is supported a little bit more after the first game. And that's not taking anything away from Georgia State because, like we said, it's you know, we said we thought this could be an interesting game, and Georgia State's up early in the third quarter, and then South Carolina finally goes back ahead for good midway through the third. So I think that's kind of one of those things too. But I think if you're Arkansas heading this game, and we're going to break this down, by the way, guys, we'll have our previews and all that. I think Blaine will have his previews and all that up. Should be tomorrow, from what I can gather. I think we should have that up tomorrow, so you'll get a little more X's and O's, stats based stuff on these two teams heading into it. But just my personal opinion, I think Arkansas getting South Carolina this early in the season is probably much better scheduling wise than later because I do think Rattler's going to get them rolling.
yeah.
I don't think it's happening just yet. So
Well, no team in the league last year was better over the second half of the season, improved more over the second half of the season than South Carolina.
yeah,
So you know that Shane Beamer, at least we have a sample size of 1 year, but
yeah,
in that 1 year, when they did not have a lot to play for at the time, and you looked at the schedule, you said there's no way they're going to a bowl.
yeah,
They didn't have a quarterback, and yet you look up at season's end, they're not only in a bowl, they're winning a bowl.
yeah,
So you've got to keep that in mind. Yes, I did want to see more from Spencer Rattler, but I know that Shane Beamer, from what we have seen so far, and improves his teams. And from what we have seen so far, Shane Beamer can win without a quarterback. And, whatever you think of Spencer Rattler, whether he's Spencer Rattler 2 years ago or Spencer Rattler closer to last year, either way, that's a big improvement over what he had at any point last season.
yeah. Well, Harrison family back once again. I I think this is an interesting thought too because, like you said, there's no doubt that South Carolina's going to see the tape on Arkansas in that Cincinnati game, and maybe you do see a lot more chance. Maybe Rattler's just throwing that thing down the field, just kind of having a shot at the deep passing game, and maybe that is something that no doubt will come up in this game. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into these actual SEC games, right? Like that's something too. Like watching these teams play, like in week one, you're just looking at
Yeah.
it like, all right, let's get these teams playing each other, which now begins coming up this week. So, yeah, I'm very excited to kind of see the matchups with these teams and start to get into these SEC games. So,
Only game we didn't talk about Saturday. And by the way, we did talk about Tennessee and Missouri's wins. You can find out on our channel. So we're
yeah,
not hitting that tonight. Vandy kind of tried to blow it late, but held on for an 11-point win. Mike Wright, who won the quarterback job in fall practice, throws 4 touchdowns and runs for 2 more, which I think was the school record at Vanderbilt for touchdowns accounted for, which I think Jay Cutler held before him. So look, Vandy 2-0 against Elon and Hawaii, both of which are Elon's better than Hawaii. Hawaii is awful. But look, that's 2 wins. That's as many as Vanderbilt had the 2 previous seasons combined. So step in the right direction for Vandy.
Yep. Got Wake Forest coming up next. So,
Yep.
yeah, that will be an interesting one because,
Which, yeah, Hartman won't play, I don't
yeah,
think.
no. So, I mean, look, let's be honest. We said for Vandy, if you're going to look at this successful season, I think you win the games you should win. You knock off somebody you shouldn't knock off, one or two of those. I don't think the expectation's a 6-win season or anything, but they won the first two. They've got a chance now with just the way the scenarios lined up to beat Wake Forest. I don't think Northern Illinois is very good.
No.
That's on the road. I think they should win that one. So look, I mean, if you're, hey, let's say you're 3-1, or let's say you're 4-0 heading into that Alabama game. Well, it's going to be, you're going to get brought back down to earth in that one.
Yes.
But look, if you can just win these games, like again, if Vandy wins these first four, maybe they don't win an SEC game, but like it's a step in the
That's
right direction.
progress.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a step in the right direction. So that's all you can ask for. So.
What else did we not hit in week one? And I mean, I know we
I
missed
mean,
something, but
look, here's the thing, just so everyone knows, like again, we are trying to just give you a little bit of something on everyone. So like we know we didn't spend a ton of time on Georgia just completely decimating Oregon. Florida we talked a bit about, but we didn't go 30-minute deep dive into that. But what you will get, like I said, in these previews we're gonna have in the next games, like you'll get a lot of sort of stats based stuff on these types of games too. Like
yeah.
Blaine will kind of be tying that in. So keep that in mind. Chris and I are just kind of reaction, just what we thought. Like we're not necessarily diving too hard into every single game for a lengthy amount of time. We're just kind of giving you. We're trying to get everything covered to cover everyone's
Well,
bases. So there you go.
this weekend was tougher because
Yeah,
there were no SEC on SEC matchups. So you've
you're
got
right.
to watch or try
Yeah,
to follow forth. So there's going to be stuff obviously that we missed. We tried to watch as much football as we could.
yeah.
Um,
We couldn't watch everyone at once.
yeah, I was watching football basically from about 11:30 yesterday until 10 something when
I
it was
mean,
all pretty much over.
I'll
So
say this: like the most impressive things I saw from
Georgia,
SEC Saturday, Georgia at the very top. Just for how they did that, it was just remarkable. And look, you can all say, well, Oregon's overrated. I'm not going there. Georgia was so good that I'm not even. Why knock the team for just being completely efficient in a manner that they were? Georgia was just so good. Number two on that list to me, I think it has to be Florida. I mean, look, and let's say this too: we're not knocking Alabama, right? Um, we're not knocking Alabama for that as well. So just because I don't know, like that's the issue, right, Chris? Where it's like it's just accepted that Alabama's just going to just drub people no matter who it is in the non-conference. It seems sometimes. So yeah, we'll see. So um, see, Chris has put up a nice comment. Hey, we're fine with this. We're like we said, we understand. And by the
we're
way,
going to be wrong on somebody.
just to repeat, as we have said many times, this was a composite staff ranking. This was not just Chris and I doing our rankings. We had many more people, a good, I don't know, several more people added to the mix. So it's just composite rankings, man. Sometimes it's not. Did we have Auburn at 9 or 10? I don't remember where we had Auburn, to be honest with you.
I
So
don't either. I mean, it was around there. But look, I mean,
maybe it
like we
was.
said, I think there are 12 good teams in this league. Um, the 2 teams I do not have in that are Missouri and Vandy.
Yeah.
It's a Louisiana Tech. I watched Missouri. I don't know what to make of that. I thought Missouri's front four was much better. Their linebacker play was better. Their secondary play was better. Their
Yeah.
quarterback play was okay. Their running game is okay. But they were dreadful on I mean, Missouri could end up cracking that top 12. I don't think they're a bad team. I think all the top 12 teams are maybe top 40 in the country teams, but you've got to pick them in some order.
Yeah, we had Auburn at 9, by the way. I just want to make sure we got that right. Yes, we did. So
I've seen Auburn picked last in the West many
no,
places.
and we said it's separating those teams in the West was a hard thing to do. But again, it's like, Chris, here's the thing. We're gonna have to do our power rankings for this week. Everybody won.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, that's the thing is, it's just you're still playing that game until you see some separation from some of these. But like we said, I mean, it's just it's power rankings are nothing more than personal opinions on things, and they are not an exact science, in my opinion. So we're having some comments on Georgia, I think. What was it talking about? Georgia's offense. Look, Stetson Bennett's taking a lot of crap.
Stetson Bennett looked terrific.
But Stetson Bennett is a national championship quarterback, and he just carved up Oregon.
Stetson Bennett was a lot more than a game manager against Oregon.
Say whatever you want, man. I don't. The guy's winning. And I know people say, "Well, I could be quarterback and win with Georgia's talent."
Oh, here we go.
So.
The grudges are coming from
Auburn fans. Listen, I love you. Like I got a lot of great Auburn fans that followed our basketball stuff over the years, and again, we're not going to be right about everything, and we don't. I know there's a lot of people out there in our business that their whole goal is just to be right and to tell you how right they are. If you're just joining us for the first time, make sure you understand that is not the business we're in. So we're just out here having fun. So
your name is not Jesus, is it?
What now?
Your name is not Jesus, is it?
No, I mean I've got a beard, but
yeah,
no, I don't think so.
So we're not going to be right all the time.
I mean, look, hey, baseball. Hey, blame Chris for everything on baseball.
Can I address the baseball grudge machine?
Blame Chris for the baseball.
The transfers this year made it impossible to pick. Nobody knew what anybody had.
Chris, what do I say every year in every sport? Preseason rankings are the most meaningless thing out there. I think preseason, and we do them, right? And I say this every year. I'm like, I hate that we have to do these because I can't stand preseason rankings. I think they're just like, I talk about that in basketball every year. I'm like, who cares about the preseason top 25? Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Football, less games, which I get, but I don't know. It's just, that's why I was so excited just to get this stuff going, because now we actually see it and we can revise our thoughts on a lot of these teams, because we're not just going by what we see on paper on a roster and stats from last season. We are going by what we see on the field. Even though it's only one game, we're able to really get some sort of grasp on what we think the outlook can be for these teams. And again, to me, that's always way more important than just making a bunch of guesses, which, again, in our business, we have to do heading into the season, but it's just not. I want to see it, and I'm glad we're actually getting to see it now. So
I don't think I've looked forward to a football season in the SEC more than I have this one in a while, because you have everything. You have Alabama was everybody's preseason number one. Well, guess what? Georgia looks like it's not ready to give that up just yet. That's going to be crazy.
Great QB, from what I understand. I mean, look, great quarterback. So,
quarterback rating of infinity.
Harrison family coming in.
So you have top heaviness with maybe two national title contenders, and who knows? Maybe A&M gets there, or maybe somebody else jumps up. But the thing is, you have so much balance, Blake.
Yeah.
I think just about every game this year, maybe unless it involves Alabama, Georgia, or Vanderbilt, has got a chance to be interesting, especially if Missouri's, Missouri looked better in some places. We wanted Missouri to be better. That's the thing that I like, is we're going to be way wrong on some teams. Yep. Way wrong. And I like it. I'm glad. I'm glad that there's going to be somebody that's going to jump up that we didn't peg, because it's way more interesting. It just seems like in the past you'd look at it and go, okay, the SEC's got, a half dozen teams that we think will be in a bowl and a few that might, and then these 3 or 4 teams over here are rebuilding or whatever. That's not the case now. It is going to be so interesting. You look at the week 2 schedule, you look at the matchups almost up and down the board, other than 3 or 4 games. It's going to be a really interesting schedule.
Yeah.
Shout out to Soroga. Yeah, the Braves are one game back from the Mets.
Here they come.
Despite not hitting and the bullpen being completely not
back
dependable
to keep the crown
lately.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So Hey, let's go back to Donovan. He had something to say to us earlier, and we appreciate that. I do. I appreciate the insight. Like again, um, we'll see. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you say on here that could turn out to be the case this season because I really do. Like we talked about it, Chris. That SEC West. I wish there's a betting service out there that gave us an SEC West bet order of finish because I would throw one out there just for the fun of it, just to try to figure out how are these teams going to finish in the West because it's just so hard to figure out. So
Donovan apparently forgot that Mississippi State is in the West too.
yeah, that's okay. It's all right. Donovan also making a comment about a former SEC head
Oh, Derek
coach,
Mason,
and
my
my
goodness.
goodness, whew, yeah, that was rough for the Cowboys there. Well, they give up 44. Was it 44? I think
44 to Central Michigan.
58-44 the final on that one. Yeah.
Hey, did you see? I'm sure you saw the score. Appalachian State in North Carolina.
Yes.
Holy cow!
Yeah. Mac Brown's
State's going
North
to
Carolina teams are not quite the Texas teams he had back in the day. So,
Appalachian State goes to College Station next weekend.
oh, that's right. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Blaine's gonna have to preview up for that one too tomorrow. So, if he picks Appalachian State, Texas A&M fans, we're just gonna give him 30 minutes live stream, and you guys just go at him. So, go right ahead.
The fan bases that hate us most right now, I think, are Auburn and A&M.
I don't think they hate us. I know you're forgetting Florida, by the way.
Well, Blaine dealt with most of that.
That's true. That's again. Put all that on Blaine. It's just yeah. No, we'll see. We say this kind of stuff, but we promote good conversation, and we know not everyone is going to engage in good conversation. There's always going to be people that, and it's fine. Like we love the passion, so I'm all for it, man. Just yeah, we're like I said, just don't mistake us for other people. That's all I want to say. We're just two guys that have covered the SEC for a long time, and we just have fun doing this. And you can ask a lot of the fan bases that have been in our live streams many times and all that. And it's just we have fun with this stuff, so we enjoy it.
When you say don't mistake us for other people, you mean like Barry Gibb or?
Well, I mean, listen, if I had his net worth, I don't know if
he wouldn't be on here tonight.
I don't know if I would, but yes, I would because I enjoy talking about. Oh no! Come on, Donovan!
Donovan's not letting it go.
Come on, Donovan! Well, hold on a second, Donovan. What was what did we pick our preseason basketball rankings last year? I don't remember.
We had Auburn 4th or 5th, maybe. I don't know.
Did we? I don't remember.
Probably.
Yeah,
I don't.
Maybe you're right, Donovan.
Probably.
I think we probably picked them behind Alabama, which I get it. I get it.
So Donovan's mad at us for football, baseball, and basketball.
It's fine. Listen, I think Donovan's bringing a lot to the conversation here. I appreciate his insight. So I really do.
I think we should do women's softball and pick Auburn last, just to.
Donovan, let me tell you this. I'm going to give you my preseason scoop on Auburn basketball. I will be much higher on them this year. So, although I say that, I've been on the Auburn basketball train.
Hey, you've been on Auburn
for years,
bandwagon for a long time,
for many years. So,
our question about Auburn is we didn't know what Walker Kessler they were going to get.
Yeah, well,
and they also had Flanagan hurt, which we didn't know how that was going to impact things.
All right, just so Adam 5th behind 6th. There's no way I had him 6th, right? Come on. I think I had him 5th. I did not have him behind Florida. That I can guarantee you. Because if there's anybody that's not been high on Florida, I guarantee I didn't have him behind Florida. I may have had him 5th, but not that. So
Donovan isn't one of our better halves.
No, I don't think so.
The whole,
because
don't forget things.
Because Donovan was paying attention to Derek Mason's not ideal debut there. So no, I appreciate it. We do appreciate the interaction, Donovan. My Auburn basketball pick this year is going to be interesting. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see.
So, we'll take our medicine.
I'm really high on the Tigers. Anyways, back to football. I'm sorry.
Hey,
You guys know I'll get into basketball. So.
let me give you my overriding thoughts for the weekend. I think you looked at some of these lines in week one, and the hype train for the SEC has been going full blast about
Yeah.
how great the league is at the top, how balanced it is in the middle, how good it is even in the bottom third. And I feel like the league still performed expectations in a spot where it almost couldn't.
Yeah.
That's number one. Two, quarterback play. It's some big stat lines from a lot of guys. And three, I mean, and like it started to feel for a while like holding a team to a field goal or a shutout was almost impossible, no matter who you play win, just because the conditions have. I mean, and this is the same day where UNC and Appalachian State both go over 60 points, and I don't think that game went to overtime. So that's the era we are living in. You had A&M throw up a goose egg. You had Alabama do it, and you had Georgia hold Oregon to a field goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miami of Ohio, I mean, well, I guess they were going to struggle. Or no, Miami of Ohio's offense was supposed to be pretty good now that I remember. So to hold them to 13 and to get a kickoff return score, I mean, I look at it, it was hard for the SEC to live up to what everybody expected, and I feel like the league did that and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Like, we know, and I don't think you call it the hype train anymore because, like, I don't think it's just, it's data. The SEC
Yep.
year in and year out is good. And I know that there are some people that outside the SEC that just don't, they're always like, oh, the SEC hype train and all this. It speaks for itself. But yeah, no, you're right. It's the expectations are always going to be this way. But I think this season, like we said, it is as interesting as I can remember in terms of I don't think there's a lot that separates a good majority of
No.
these teams. Now, I say that I think there's clearly a 1 and 2 right now, and 1A and 1B, if you want to put it that way. And this may anger people, but I think when you look at what Alabama and Georgia have, and especially what Georgia did to Oregon, I think that's where you start. But like we said, man, look at what Florida did. Look at what Arkansas did. Like there's not a lot, I think, that separates a lot of these other teams. And I think it's going to be so fun. Again, we're going back to Thursday night, Tennessee and those, I just, yeah, I think it's going to be something. So,
Hey, if Florida gets by Kentucky next week, Florida's going to go into October unbeaten.
yeah, you may be right. So that's very true. We talked about that schedule for Florida, man. We talked about how big that first game was. I mean, we didn't, we didn't pick them to beat Utah, but we said that opening part of the schedule, it's very interesting if things come together quickly for Florida. So, and they did.
Payne Guiney says, I feel like in a couple of years, a few coaches will be fired that don't necessarily deserve to be fired. The SEC is really good now, feast or famine. Well, I mean, hey, look at the last few years. Well, let's. What coaches have been jettisoned in this league? We've seen Gus Malzahn. We've seen Dan Mullen. We've seen Ed Orgeron. We've seen Barry Odom. Jeremy Pruitt. I wouldn't really include him in the good coach category. Derek Mason, same thing. I mean, that's the nature of it. You get all these coaches who come in, and it just seems like out of every 4 or 5 can't miss coaches, 1 or 2 has fallen on his face in 3 or 4 years, just because that's how this league is.
Yeah, I think so.
You've got at least 48 built-in disappointments every fall for the league as a whole.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That number is 56 now with 14 teams. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of number of teams, it's a good point here. Imagine if can we just expedite this whole situation and
Oh,
move this 12
please,
team playoff up?
please.
But really, think about that this year, right? Like, think about that's where I think things are going to get interesting. Of course, we'll talk plenty about that moving forward. But I think how are you going to keep out a certain number of SEC teams, right? And yes, that's a good point here. The East is on the rise. Like finally, like I feel like we've been talking about the East that, you know, it's been down, right? And we've talked about that so much. And now Florida on the way back up, it seems. Tennessee on the way back up. Like I said, Kentucky, Stoops has kept them right there. And so yeah, there's a lot to like, I think, about what's going on in the East. And by the way, too, Harrison family asked if Utah was just overrated. Look, maybe, but I think, and this is what I said earlier, I think it's watching Florida. I was very impressed just watching the Florida side of it, and maybe Utah was, and of course the opponent matters. But I saw a lot of things in week one from Florida that maybe I didn't think I was going to see until you know, week 4 or something. And I think that was probably the most pleasing thing for me is just to see them do a lot of things. I think early on that maybe you thought it would take a little longer to get there. So
Well, our man Blaine thought I was overrating him, but the thing I've said all along is when you've got a quarterback like Richardson
yeah,
with just that much upside. I mean, you saw that play. He's looking at two receivers in the middle of the field. They're covered. He looks up, he spots something to the outside, and then he goes, 56 yards, basically untouched to the end zone.
yeah,
And he's huge. When you've
yeah,
got a guy that can do all this stuff, like you got the play right where you want, and all of a sudden he looks outside and it's 6 points. I mean, I just think that, and you look, he's not the only guy in the league like that. You got a lot of quarterbacks. You got Hendon Hooker, you got KJ Jefferson, you got Mike Wright, Bryce Young. You don't think of him as a runner, but he's got decent speed. He was joined the 100 club last night.
yep.
That's a nightmare to defend, man.
It is like that's just if, like you said, if you have that to build on, you're going to be in good shape. I think so. Yeah. So, hey, listen. I mean, I don't know. Like we were talking about Auburn's schedule, and we talked about it. It was kind of one of those things where I wish I could remember because we did this stuff so it feels like forever since we did our schedule previews. But let me pull up Auburn's schedule real quick because we had talked about that.
San Jose State, then Penn State, then Missouri, LSU at Georgia, Ole Miss.
Yeah, we
Bye
said,
week.
man, that's such a yeah.
It's the second half on.
But look, Penn State, I think looks a lot better now. Look, Auburn can be 5-0. Let's just be honest here. They should beat San Jose State. They're going to really have a good chance to beat Penn State, in my opinion. I think it beat Missouri. LSU will be, again, we'll see how LSU plays tonight. Right now, very low scoring game, but yeah, it's going to be a battle, and so absolutely, can they get there? Sure, I'm not going to say they can. So yeah, um, yeah. So hey, Tennessee did look great. We said, I mean, that
Yeah.
I'm all in on Tennessee offensively, defensively, we'll see, but how it plays out. But I mean, yeah, when you have an offense that good, you're gonna have a chance, right? So
And Tennessee, I don't know what you make of it. I thought Tennessee looked okay on defense the other night. I thought the back end of that team played really well. They lost a couple corners to the draft, or they lost a safety in a corner to the draft, I think.
and let's be honest too, they're playing a team we talked about Ball State who's replacing a lot of their top producers for
Yeah.
from a season ago, and so it was you were hoping Tennessee would look well.
Tennessee just needs that defense to be okay.
Right, that's what we said. They don't have to be great. Their offense is too good. They'll outscore people. But
Did
yeah,
you realize? I did not realize it was by this margin. They were showing average plays for how many seconds last year? Like Ole Miss plays fast. Ole Miss was number 2. Tennessee was a full second faster than Ole Miss a year ago.
yeah,
Which, like, you're like, okay, 1 second, 20 seconds versus 21. That's kind of hard to do, over that many plays in a season. And you know how fast Ole Miss plays.
yeah,
Like Tennessee was so fast last year that Ole Miss couldn't handle it.
yep, for sure.
So
No, that's a good point. Yep, yep. So, all right. Well,
we out of here.
we had a lot of great comments. Like I said, we appreciate everybody. We're going to try to do these, of course, throughout the season. There will be some stuff we'll do on Saturdays. we'll have our usual Wednesday nights. You guys seem to enjoy that on Wednesday. Blaine will be back with us on Wednesday, so we'll look ahead to week 2. And yeah, like I said, we appreciate all you guys. We love the interaction, and we're just getting started with football season. So I think we'll have basketball running simultaneously. How great will that be? So,
well, quick shout out to our sponsor, Stakes. You can predict sports, build your track record, earn digital trophies. You get your predictions on the record, predict anything in the game for free, see how you measure up against fans and influencers, which includes us. Flex your wins, broadcast your takes to our community of sports fans with just a few taps of your phone, and earn credibility. You can build your public predictions track record by winning competitions, earning NFT trophies for making the perfect call. Go to playwithstakes.com/14, sign up. Use the invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. We create polls on there every week. We put our own predictions on them. Again, no money, all just for fun and bragging rights. You can bet on our polls. You can create your own. You can kick our tails and come in the chat and brag about it. For all we care, we would welcome that. So visit our partners at Stake. Great guys. Their app is so cool. It's so much fun. Yeah. And just try it. You're gonna love it. We do too. So
it's a lot of fun. Check it out. And hey, if you want to contact us about a job, what's our email, Chris? I don't remember.
Is it? Good grief.
Do chris.lee@southeastern14.com.
Yeah, that's the one that goes to me. There's one that goes to both of us, and I've gone blank on it. So
there you go. chris.lee@southeastern14.com. Send all your power ranking, all your power ranking issues to him as well.
Dropping that link.
I don't know what link we're talking about. Stakes? Where's the stakes link?
Oh, it's in the well, it's in the little scrolling banner, but I'll put it in here too.
Playwithstakes.com/14. There you go. I'm going to put it in the comments for you guys. You got it?
I am too.
All right, there you go. Pop it in there.
Although it's not. There we go.
There you go. All right, guys. We appreciate you. A lot of week 1 or week 2 previews going up tomorrow. And so check those out. We'll have quite a few of those. Should be going up, during the day tomorrow. So Arkansas, South Carolina, A&M, Appalachian State, and many more. So
and power rankings, because we have to continue to anger people.
Oh boy. Yep. Oh boy. I'm not ready for power rankings.
All right. Well.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.